God knows He loves you. Not in a shallow, momentary way, not with words spoken only when it is convenient, but with a depth that reaches into places no one else has ever fully seen. He knows the thoughts He hides, the emotions He struggles to name, the quiet ways He shows care that go unnoticed. God knows the truth of His heart even when circumstances seem to argue against it. And still, you look at your life and wonder why she is still around. That question echoes in your spirit late at night, when everything is quiet and the mind becomes loud. If love is real, if God sees it, why does confusion remain? Why does another presence still exist in the story? This is where God gently invites you to look deeper. Not outward. Because the presence of her is not always about competition, betrayal, or loss. Sometimes it is about process. Sometimes it is about timing. Sometimes it is about lessons that cannot be learned in comfort. God never rushes what needs to be rooted. He never removes a chapter until its message has been fully written on the heart. What feels like delay to you may be preparation. What feels like pain may be protection in a form you do not yet recognize. God sees how quickly you assume that her presence means you are less chosen, less loved, less valued. But God is not confused about who you are. He is not distracted. He is not weighing options the way humans do. When God chooses, He chooses fully. The problem is not God's clarity. The struggle is human fear. Fear creates overlapping stories. Fear keeps doors half open. Fear makes people cling to what is familiar even when something truer is calling them forward. God knows He loves you, but God also knows where He is still healing. Love can be real while readiness is incomplete. Affection can be sincere while courage is still growing. God does not shame people for being human. He works with them. He allows time for maturity, for honesty, for the dismantling of old attachments that were built out of survival, not destiny. Her presence may not be a sign that you are second. It may be a sign that something old has not yet learned how to let go. You see, God often allows parallel paths for a season, not because both are meant to last, but because one reveals what the other cannot. Contrast brings clarity. Tension exposes truth. Without the discomfort of why is she still here, there might never be the deeper questions of what do I really want, what am I afraid of, and what does love actually require of me? God is not wasting this season. He is using it to strip illusions and strengthen foundations. There are moments when God allows you to feel unsettled on purpose. Not to hurt you, but to awaken you. Comfort can numb discernment. Certainty can make us complacent. But longing, when placed in God's hands, becomes a compass. That ache you feel is not meant to drive you into comparison or insecurity. It is meant to draw you closer to God's voice, where truth is quieter but far more stable than the noise of circumstances. God knows how often you replay conversations, analyze silence, read meaning into small actions. He knows how easy it is to turn her presence into a mirror that reflects only your fears. But God is asking you not to measure your worth by someone else's position in a story that is still unfolding. You are not a placeholder. You are not an option. You are not loved if things work out. God's view of you does not fluctuate based on someone else's indecision. Sometimes God keeps someone around not because they belong in the future, but because they are tied to the past that needs closure. People don't always leave when love ends. Sometimes they stay because familiarity feels safer than the unknown. God understands this about the human heart. He knows how long it can take to loosen a grip that was once formed in pain, habit, or fear of being alone. This does not diminish the love that exists for you. It explains the process that still needs to happen within him. God also knows you are learning something in this season. You are learning patience that is not passive, faith that is not blind, and trust that is not dependent on immediate outcomes. You are learning how to stand firmly in who you are without demanding constant reassurance. This is not punishment. This is refinement. God is shaping you into someone who does not beg for clarity but recognizes it when it arrives. There is a difference between love that clings and love that is chosen freely. God wants the latter for you. He wants a love that stands without comparison, without shadows, without unresolved ties pulling it backward. If God removed her too quickly, before truth had fully surfaced, the same confusion could reappear later in a different form. God is thorough. He heals at the root, not just at the surface. You may not see it yet, but God is also protecting your heart. If everything aligned before the right time, you might step into a future built on fragile honesty. God refuses to build something sacred on an unstable foundation. So he waits. He works. He reveals. And yes, sometimes he allows discomfort because discomfort demands growth. God knows how easy it is to interpret waiting as rejection. But waiting, in God's economy, is often confirmation that what is coming matters deeply. He does not rush what is valuable. He does not treat hearts casually. Every delay has intention, even when you cannot trace it yet. You are not being tested to see how much pain you can tolerate. You are being prepared to recognize peace when it arrives. Peace does not compete. Peace does not confuse. Peace does not require constant questioning. When God removes what no longer belongs, it will not be dramatic chaos. It will be quiet certainty. Until then, he invites you to rest in what you already know, that you are seen, that you are loved, and that your story is not defined by who is still standing nearby. God knows he loves you, but more importantly, God knows how this story needs to unfold to protect both of you from regret. Trust that God is not overlooking you. He is overseeing everything. And even now, in the tension you wish would disappear, God is closer than you think, shaping an ending that will make sense of every unanswered. God wants you to understand that silence does not mean absence. Just because nothing obvious has shifted yet does not mean nothing is happening. God often works in the unseen long before anything becomes visible. Roots grow in darkness. Strength forms where no one applauds it. And love, the kind God is preparing, is shaped quietly, patiently, without spectacle. You are living in a hidden chapter right now, one that will only make sense when you look back and realize how much was being rearranged beneath the surface. God sees how your heart tries to stay soft while protecting itself at the same time. That balance is not easy. You don't want to harden. You don't want to close off. Yet you also don't want to be hurt by hoping too deeply. God understands this tension. He understands how vulnerability can feel risky when clarity is delayed. But God is gently teaching you that your softness is not weakness. It is strength that simply hasn't been met with the right timing yet. There are things God is correcting inside him too. Patterns learned long before you entered the picture. Ways of loving that were shaped by survival rather than truth. God does not rush transformation because rushed change rarely lasts. He allows reflection. He allows discomfort. He allows moments where old attachments no longer fit but new courage has not fully formed. That in-between space is uncomfortable, but it is also sacred. You may wonder why God allows you to feel this aware, this sensitive to what feels unfinished. It's because awareness is a gift. You are not numb. You are not disconnected. You are not pretending everything is fine. God is sharpening your discernment, not to torment you, but to prepare you for a future where you will no longer ignore red flags or silence your intuition. This season is teaching you to trust what you feel without letting it control you. God knows how easy it would be to walk away emotionally just to stop the ache. But He also knows that walking away without understanding can leave wounds instead of wisdom. So He invites you to stay present, not attached to outcomes, but anchored in truth. Presence does not mean waiting helplessly. It means living fully while trusting God to handle what you cannot. Sometimes God keeps her around as a mirror, not for comparison, but for contrast. Through her presence, you see what no longer aligns. You see what you would not accept long term. You see what love should feel like and what it should not. God uses contrast to clarify desire, not to confuse it. And clarity is one of the greatest protections He gives. God is also watching how you treat yourself during this time. Do you abandon your joy while waiting for answers? Do you shrink your life, pause your growth, silence your laughter? God does not ask you to put your life on hold. What is meant for you will meet you in motion, not in self-neglect. Keep becoming. Keep living. Keep choosing joy where you can. That is not disloyalty to love, it is loyalty to your soul. You are not wrong for wanting reassurance. You are not weak for longing for clarity. But God is teaching you that reassurance rooted in Him lasts longer than reassurance rooted in circumstances. People can change their minds. Situations can shift. God's voice does not waver. Learn to listen for it above everything else. God knows there are moments you feel second without anyone ever saying it out loud. That quiet feeling can hurt more than obvious rejection. But God wants to remind you that feeling second does not mean you are second. It means you are in a story that has not yet reached its turning point. Do not write the ending based on the middle. There will come a moment when what is unresolved will no longer be able to stay unresolved. Truth always surfaces. Choices eventually have to be made. God is patient, but He is also just. He will not allow confusion to define your future indefinitely. When the time is right, clarity will arrive not as chaos, but as alignment. Things will simply fall into place, or fall away, without force. Until then, God asks you to keep your heart open but your identity grounded. You are loved whether this works out the way you imagine or not. You are chosen regardless of who stays or leaves. You are whole even in the waiting. Do not let a temporary chapter convince you that you are incomplete. God knows He loves you. And God also knows how deeply He loves you. That love is not threatened by anyone else's presence. It is not diminished by delay. It is not fragile. Trust that the same God who placed love in His heart is also capable of ordering the circumstances around it. Nothing is out of control. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing about you is overlooked, and when the reason for why she was still around finally reveals itself, you will not look back with bitterness. You will look back with understanding. You will see how God was guarding your heart, shaping your strength, and preparing you for a love that arrives without confusion, without fear, and without competition. God wants to speak to the part of you that is tired of being strong in silence. The part that smiles, functions, and keeps going while carrying questions no one else hears. God sees that weight. He is not impressed by how well you hide it, He is compassionate toward how deeply you feel it. You don't need to prove your faith by pretending this doesn't hurt. Faith is not denial. Faith is choosing to trust God even while admitting you don't understand His timing yet. There are moments when you wonder if you are being asked to wait because you are meant to settle. God is very clear about this. Waiting is not settling. Waiting is refusing to accept something unfinished as final. Settling shrinks the soul. Waiting stretches it. One leads to quiet resentment, the other to deep strength. God will never ask you to betray your own worth in the name of patience. God also wants you to know that love, when it is truly meant to last, does not need rivals. If something has to be constantly defended, explained, or justified, it is not standing on solid ground yet. This does not mean love is fake. It means it is still forming. God is far more interested in what love will become than how it feels in its early stages. He looks beyond emotion into endurance. You may feel like you are standing still while everyone else is moving forward. But spiritually, you are not stagnant. You are becoming more self-aware, more grounded, more honest with yourself. These qualities will matter more than you realize later. God often builds depth before He brings connection. Shallow love is loud and fast. Deep love is quiet and sure. God knows there are moments when jealousy tries to sneak in, not because you are a jealous person, but because uncertainty creates comparison. When clarity is missing, the mind fills in gaps with fear. God is not disappointed in you for these feelings. He asks you to bring them to Him instead of letting them define your behavior. Feelings acknowledged lose their power. Feelings suppressed grow roots. There is also something God is teaching you about boundaries. Love does not mean unlimited access to your emotional energy. Caring does not mean tolerating confusion forever. God is showing you that you can love without losing yourself, hope without obsessing, and stay open without being drained. These are skills you will carry into every healthy relationship, not just this one. God is aware that part of you wonders if walking away would be easier. And yes, sometimes distance feels like relief. But God does not lead through pressure. He leads through peace. When it is time to step back, you will not need to force it. Your spirit will know. Until then, God is asking you not to make permanent decisions from temporary exhaustion. Remember this. What is meant for you will not require you to compete with someone else's past. It will not ask you to dim yourself so someone else can feel comfortable. It will not thrive on ambiguity. God's best does not arrive with constant anxiety attached to it. When something is aligned, it may still be challenging, but it will not steal your sense of self. God is also protecting the version of you that exists after this season. The wiser you. The calmer you. The you who knows how to listen to intuition without panic. You are not being delayed, you are being prepared to recognize what you deserve without hesitation. One day, you will notice that the question "why is she still around?" no longer holds the same emotional charge. Not because it was answered immediately, but because you outgrew the fear behind it. When that happens, you will realize how much God has strengthened you without you even noticing. God knows He loves you. But God also knows what kind of love will sustain you long term. He is not just giving you a moment, He is shaping a future. And nothing about this waiting, this confusion, or this silence is wasted. Every tear, every prayer, every quiet act of trust is being woven into something that will one day feel steady instead of uncertain. Stay soft. Stay honest. Stay rooted in God, not in outcomes. What is meant to stay will stay without forcing. What is meant to leave will leave without destroying you. And when clarity finally comes, you will understand that God was never asking you to endure confusion forever. He was teaching you how to walk through it without losing yourself. God wants to leave you with this truth resting gently, not loudly, in your heart. You are not waiting because you are lacking. You are waiting because something sacred is being protected. God never delays love to punish the one who hopes. He delays to preserve dignity, clarity, and peace. What He has in mind for you is not fragile. It does not depend on constant reassurance or emotional strain to survive. There will come a day when you look back at this season and realize that God was teaching you how to trust yourself again. How to listen to that quiet inner knowing without rushing to silence it. How to recognize love that feels calm instead of consuming. You are learning that intensity is not the same as intimacy. And confusion is not the same as depth. These lessons will guard your heart long after this chapter closes. God is not asking you to wait forever. He is asking you to wait wisely. To stay open but not desperate. To stay loving but not self-abandoning. To stay hopeful but not blind. This balance is difficult, but it is powerful. It turns waiting into growth instead of suffering. One day, clarity will arrive in a way that feels almost gentle. It may come through a conversation, a decision, or simply a shift in energy where things that once felt heavy no longer do. When that happens, you will not need to chase answers. You will recognize truth by the peace it brings. God's clarity does not shout. It settles. If love moves forward, it will do so without shadows following behind it. If it doesn't, you will not be left broken. You will be left stronger, clearer, and more rooted in who you are. Either way, God has already ensured that you do not lose yourself in the process. That is His promise to you. Do not let fear convince you that this waiting defines your value. Your worth was never on trial. You were never competing. You were always enough, even on days you questioned everything. God sees you choosing grace over bitterness, faith over control, softness over walls. These choices matter more than you know, and remember this above all: what is truly meant for you will arrive with peace. Not constant questions. It will not make you feel small, unsure, or replaceable. It will feel steady. It will feel mutual. It will feel like coming home, not like waiting in the dark. God knows He loves you. God knows what you need. And God knows exactly when to bring clarity without costing you your heart. Until that moment arrives fully, rest in this assurance: you are held, you are guided, and nothing about your life is unfolding by accident.